With states still counting, Donald Trump's path narrows as mail-in votes help Joe Biden catch up.
A man who was shot by a police officer during a raid in Balestier was charged today, along with 2 others.
And while stocks last, Robinsons kicks off its closing down sale.
Hello, you're watching The Big Story, coming to you live from the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay.
I'm Haryanto Diman. Now you can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode.
So, not much has changed in the race to the White House, but Democratic candidate Joe Biden edges closer to victory. He's narrowed the lead that President Donald Trump has in the key battleground states of Pennsylvania and Georgia as votes continue to be counted. In Georgia, in fact, Mr. Biden is trailing by just 400 or so votes, and that's according to the New York Times and CNN.
But Mr. Trump has doubled down on his claim that he has won the election, suggesting on Twitter that votes left to be counted in battleground states, which could decide the election, should deemed illegal.
Well, as it stands now, 5 states are still undecided. If we include Arizona, that would be 6. Some news outlets haven't called Arizona for Mr. Biden just yet. So if 6 states haven't been called, Mr. Biden has 253 votes. And if Arizona is included in the mix, then he has 264. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump's vote count stands at 214.
Jeremy Au Yong is back. Now, he is the former US Bureau Chief at the Straits Times. Jeremy, the top line numbers haven't changed. Mr. Biden is leading with 253 votes. Now, some news outlets are projecting 264, so it really depends. Mr. Trump is still at 214. Has there been any progress beneath the surface of these numbers?
I think Olivia already covered some of the changes that have, that have taken place in the time. What was it? 3.5, 4 hours since we last spoke.
Yep.
So top line numbers, you're right. Nothing has changed. 253 or 264, depending on the outlet. But the gap in the different states that matter have changed. Most interestingly is Georgia, because Georgia it was a lead of few 100,000, I think, on election day itself. Now, 3 days later, it is down to less than 500. I believe that there are around 2,500 votes still left to count. It could be enough to flip the state to Joe Biden. We will have to see. The race has also narrowed in Pennsylvania. I think it's less than 10,000 now. Again, that was a huge lead for Donald Trump in the lead up to on election day. But as they counted, that vote really has dwindled. So those 2 states are following this same trend. We will have to see where they end up. On the other side, there's Arizona, where Trump is catching up. A little bit more slowly. The gap is narrowing, but not narrowing at the same pace. Again, that one we'll have to see. It does seem like we are getting closer and closer and closer to a winner. But it's still not something that anybody is ready to call.
Right. So, Jeremy, what is the catch-up rate actually of each candidate in the 6 states left to be called? And would that result in some states being flipped, as you mentioned, and also like what we saw in Michigan and Wisconsin, going from red to blue?
So the expectation of both parties is a little bit different, but Democrats are definitely feeling quite confident. I think Joe Biden believes he will get both Georgia and Pennsylvania. They have been catching up, making up quite a lot of votes as the postal votes have been counted over the past 2 days. It hasn't come in at a steady rate. It's been really this drips and drabs of votes coming in. Sometimes they report 1,000, sometimes it's just a few hundred votes come in. And it's almost, you don't even know when you're going to get the data. So it's been coming in slowly, but every time data has come in, every time they've counted more votes, especially in Georgia and in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden has closed the gap. He's closed the gap, he's closed the gap, he's closed the gap. Now he's almost tied with Donald Trump. If he's right, and if current trends hold, I think most experts, or the people who do this kind of projections, most of them believe that if it follows this kind of trend, if the same margin every time vote totals come in and Joe Biden takes such a large majority of them, if that trend continues, then you will see that map, which on the right, in our map, you see it's all pink now.
Yeah.
Quite likely you may see Pennsylvania or Georgia flip blue.
Light blue.
Light
at least,
blue,
right?
light blue, until somebody calls it.
Yes, correct. We got to make sure we be sure of that. Yeah.
So and it might flip blue, but that is again on the assumption that the trend that we have seen this past 2 days holds. That's not always a safe assumption to make. We will just have to see.
Right.
And if those states do flip blue, it would mean, because Joe Biden is very close to securing the 270 he needs. If those states flip blue, then the race would be called.
And we would have a president then.
Yes, then we would know who the next American president would be. But it has to flip into solid blue, not light blue.
All right. Now, Jeremy, we want to focus on President Donald Trump. Now, earlier today we heard him claiming that the election is rigged without giving any evidence. He also doubled down on Twitter, writing that he's won with legal votes cast. Now, foreign editor Bhagya Srigareka said 2 days ago that the voting and counting process was relatively smooth, considering the chaos that could have happened due to the pandemic. So, how damaging is Mr. Trump's claims of voter fraud?
Yeah, so his speech this morning, I think not really something that we can go through. There's a lot in it. There's a lot in there to unpack. I think a lot of the American news outlets actually cut away from him while he was speaking. They cut away from him because they wanted to fact check him. And there's been a lot of fact checking going on. Some of it has something to it. A lot of it was, fact checkers believe is false. So I say in general, for I guess the Singapore audience, the thing to know is that as the foreign editor Bhagya said yesterday, by and large, the election officials have described the process as something that went along quite smoothly. Historically, electoral fraud, voter fraud in the US has been very, very small. When Donald Trump, the main thing Donald Trump talks about is legal and illegal votes. What this means, he didn't really make clear. Nobody's quite sure. He has, throughout his campaign, taken aim at postal votes. There is nothing inherently illegal about postal votes. America has voted this way. People request ballots or receive mail ballots. They fill it in and they send it back. They have voted this way for many years. The difference this year is that there are more such votes. Why are there more? COVID.
Yeah.
So
and
people
of course,
didn't.
These votes don't favor Trump,
Yeah.
as we've seen. Yeah.
Because people didn't want to go and queue up at the polling center. They requested postal votes. So there's nothing inherently illegal about them. So what? The damage, you asked me about the damage this is doing. Nothing right now, but depending on how the result goes, if Trump ultimately doesn't win, if he wins, then we don't have to worry that much about the legitimacy of the election, because, his voters will, his voters are the only one, this is a message for his voters about the legitimacy of the election. If he wins, they will forget about it. If Biden is the one that turns out to win, and Biden is favorite right now, then the challenge comes in, firstly, the transition, and secondly, when he does take over the governing. What Donald Trump has done is he has currently undermined confidence in the whole process, especially among his base. His supporters do listen to what he has to say. If now he's going out saying this process is a fraud, then there's nearly 70 million Americans who voted for him. And that's a lot of people who might think that, hey, Joe Biden is not a legitimate president. And that's going to make it difficult for him in the handover process. And really, if he does become president, how is he going to govern, the whole country? If half doesn't think he actually...
A divided country, right?
If half doesn't actually think he won.
Yep. Okay. Well, Jeremy, this is a phrase that we've heard over the last 3 days. It will take as long as it takes. It's been a long process. But just how long will it take? Because, Pennsylvania, for example, they are, it's allowed to receive ballots until next week. So can we expect an outcome? Probably not even this weekend, actually.
Yeah. You know, I'm hoping for a result. I think everybody's hoping for a result sometime soon. I am going to repeat again what I guess the foreign editor said. She wrote a commentary about it. The key word this year is patience. There's no way to rush this, and because of how close it is, I think nobody really wants to see somebody jump the gun and like project it or call it too early. I mean, Joe Biden is looking like the favorite now. He is ahead, but Donald Trump still has pathways to victory. So I think everybody just has to wait. How long is it going to take? Is anybody's guess. There is a hard deadline sometime in December when most states have to certify their results. And you know, in elections past, the results have taken time. The certification results have taken time. It's just that it wasn't this close. The news outlets were able to project the result. It does look, I am encouraged by this vote count is coming in slowly, but it's coming in. I'm encouraged that, you know, it does look like we're getting closer and closer and closer. It does seem like, you know, Joe Biden now is like standing at the doorsteps of the White House. Yeah. We'll see. If it may come in the weekend, it may come next week, it may come 2 weeks from now. I don't think it's even possible to predict. I say we just have to wait it out.
Right. And the key word again is patience.
Yep. And I think also on that note, I think we can safely say that we'll see you tomorrow, Jeremy.
Oh dear.
Thank you to Jeremy Au Yong for joining us today. He's of course the Straits Times' former US bureau chief.
Now, StraitsTimes.com has all the developments in this nail-biting election. Our live blog and microsite feature state-by-state breakdown, news developments, analysis, as well as social media updates.
An update on the COVID-19 situation here. 4 new cases were confirmed today.
All were imported and had been placed on stay-home notices when they arrived in Singapore. Now, more details will be released tonight.
3 people who were part of the group involved in the Balestier raid in the wee hours of Thursday morning have been charged. Prakash Mathivanan, the suspect who was shot by an officer, faces 2 charges. The first for voluntarily causing hurt to a staff sergeant of the Singapore Police Force with the intent to deter him from discharging his duty. The second charge is for his alleged involvement in cheating Singtel on October 14th. One of the other 2 people was charged with voluntarily causing hurt to deter a public servant from carrying out his duty, which he denied. He will be remanded for 1 week. The third person, a 33-year-old woman, was charged for her suspected involvement in the Singtel cheating incident. They will both return to court on November 13th.
Meanwhile, Robinsons will begin its store-wide sales today as its last 2 stores here at the Hiran and Raffles City Shopping Centre. Across both stores, there will be a discount on fashion, beauty, homeware, accessories and travel items. The sale is set to continue until all stocks are sold. The retailer's appointed liquidator has confirmed this announcement and added that customers who have ordered Siemens, Sealy, Serta or King Coil mattresses from Robinsons and have paid in full can expect these to be delivered. A 5th mattress company, Max Coil, said that customers who have made a full payment should approach their bank to cancel it.
Well, some breaking news before we move on with the show. It was just reported that Joe Biden has taken the lead in Georgia with 917 votes. That's according to CNN. Of course, we will bring you all these results over at straitstimes.com, where you can find our live blog and the microsite. So back home, as you know, the psle scoring system will change in 2021, and to help the current batch of primary 5 students familiarize themselves with it, the Education Ministry is releasing indicative achievement level cutoff point ranges for different school types.
MOE also announced the eligibility criteria of subject-based banding. The achievement level scoring system itself is not new. In fact, this year's P5 students will receive their year-end exam results with this AL scoring.
The cutoff point, though, will allow these students to see their AL scores in the context of secondary schools and whether the scores they're currently receiving will be able to get them into their desired school.
The indicative achievement level cutoff point is determined by a simulation run on the 2019 psle data. The cutoff point is arrived at by using the results of the worst performing student admitted into a particular secondary school the previous year.
Well, the raw scores for each subject are taken, converted to the new scoring system and tabulated to arrive at the new psle score. Taking any relevant tiebreakers into account, the score of that student makes the cutoff point for that school.
To help us further understand these updates is education correspondent Amelia Teng. Hi Amelia. Amelia, what is the significance of these new announcements about cutoff points and eligibility criteria?
Yeah, so it's all part of a larger change that MOE is trying to make. It has been releasing information about the new psle scoring system since 2016. So it's been a few years. They do it in phases because I think it's too much to take in all at once. So we already know how the new scoring system is supposed to work. The pupils will be given like achievement levels of from 1 to 8 for every subject, and then you get a total psle score, which will be the sum of each achievement level for each core subject. So today's announcement is about the indicative cutoff scores that schools will have next year, and these are meant to kind of guide pupils in their school choices and to indicate which schools are possibly within your reach and where you might like to stand. So broadly speaking, there are three types of schools: government and government aided, autonomous and independent. So if you were a primary 5 pupil this year, you would be looking at your end of year school exam results, and then these will be given to them in the new scoring format. And then you would try and look at, what type of schools you are eligible for and what type of schools you are likely to make it into.
This cutoff is based on a simulation. So how accurate can we expect it to be?
Yeah, so these cutoff scores are based on last year's primary 6 data. So last year's batch and how well they performed in the psle and also their school choices. So it's a simulation. The cutoff point every year can vary, but largely the trends are quite stable. They don't change very much from every year. But of course, these cutoff points given today are also ranges. So it's not one specific score. And next year, when MOE releases more information about individual schools' cutoff points, then we will likely see more differentiation in terms of the entry scores. Yeah.
Right. Amelia, when students have to rank their preferences for secondary schools, they feel their choices in a particular order from most preferred to least. That is one of the new tiebreakers when students with the same score are competing to get into the same school. How significant is this?
So in the new psle scoring system, school choice will be a new tiebreaker. And yes, it will matter a lot more in the new system, because in the new system, there are wider scoring bands, and wider scoring bands means you have more students with the same psle score, because we don't have the fine T-score anymore. So making school choice a part of the posting exercise is MOE's way of also trying to send a signal to parents and students that you cannot choose schools anymore solely based on your results. And you are kind of forced to look at like other aspects, consider other things about a school. Maybe it's programs, it's CCAs, the distance of the school to your home, its values and ethos and all these other things. And in other words, you have to look at how a school might be a good fit for your child, not just look at what school you can get into based on your psle score.
I see. Well, thank you, Amelia. That was education correspondent for the Straits Times, Amelia Teng. Read all about this story at straitstimes.com.
Let's take a look at the global headlines. Malaysia will continue pump priming its coronavirus-battered economy into the next year, with a 5.4% deficit expected in Budget 2021 being unveiled later today. This only slightly narrows 2020's projected 6% deficit. The government's total expenditure is projected to top 322 billion ringgit next year, over 10% more than what the Treasury believes it will spend for 2020.
According to a Reuters tally, coronavirus cases in the US surged by at least 120,000 yesterday, the second straight daily record rise post-election day. 20 out of the 50 states reported record one-day increases, with the outbreak hitting the Midwest particularly hard based on daily new cases per capita.
Australia's Victoria State reported its 7th day in a row of zero locally transmitted COVID-19 cases, this suggesting a 3-month strict lockdown in Melbourne has successfully contained a second wave outbreak. Elsewhere in Australia, New South Wales reported 4 new local transmission and another 5 involving people in quarantine. Other states and territories have effectively eliminated the virus.
WhatsApp will roll out disappearing messages to users this month, which will delete posts in a chat after 7 days. WhatsApp's owner of Facebook said that the function should help the conversation feel lighter and more private, but for employers attempting to monitor record numbers of staff working from home, this new feature may make it even more difficult to police communications.
Now, we've said this many times, the opportunity of travel to other countries is still a distant possibility. But that doesn't mean we need to hang our walking shoes, because there are places to explore right here in Singapore.
Well, in the Straits Times' new offering, SG Go Where, our live colleagues share more on the places to visit and things to do right here in Singapore. From luxe staycations to Instagram-worthy picnics, from leisurely book trails to scenic bus rides, they share their own personal experiences through their stories, pictures and videos.
You can navigate the 5 categories of the site: the editor's picks of top stories, suite life staycations, explore, experiences and videos. The explore section, for instance, includes cool local tours that have been popping up, like the Chinatown Murder Mystery Walkabout and a visit to the Last Kampong.
Wow, while the Suite Life weekly staycation series is where our journalists personalize their reviews of hotels and wander in the vicinity.
The SG Go Where site, with its hyper-local insiders' guides and tips, aims to also be a resource for foreign visitors when borders reopen.
Hey, you can visit straitstimes.com for more news and videos, and it's where you can find our live blog and microsite for the US election, which it looks like it's going the distance.
Now, Olivia and I will have updates on the race between Donald Trump and Joe Biden over the weekend as well. Once again, I'm Haryanto Diman with Olivia Quay. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, remember, by hitting the red button below. And thanks for watching The Big Story.